Hello and welcome to day one of the Fighting Better Challenge. I am Chelsea Skaggs. I'm a life and relationship coach who focuses on marriage after baby. This might mean those of you who are pregnant or expecting or trying to conceive and you want to prepare your relationship for having a baby and the changes that brings. This might be those of you who have recently had a baby and you're noticing just the changes in the dynamic and connection with your partner. This might be those of you who have a child that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you recognize that change, bringing children into your life, has created different dynamics and different challenges to your relationship. I know that is something that I experienced and I was so surprised by. And so I'm here to give you tools. I'm here to remind you that you're not alone, but you also don't have to stay stuck. And this week's challenge is about fighting better. We're here to talk about why, how, and when to communicate with more respect between one another and self-respect, and actually getting results. The worst thing is to have these arguments, this contention, or these fights, and not even get to the results. And so we want to make sure that our conversations are productive, that they have solutions, and that we are using the tools and resources of understanding ourselves, understanding our partners, and understanding the patterns between us in order to deepen that teamwork. Over the next 3 days, we're going to be getting instant results in our relationship. We are going to learn to express needs and concerns effectively without escalating conflicts. We're going to learn how to reduce frequency and intensity of arguments. We're going to learn how you can establish more proactive communication strategies to build teamwork. We are going to decrease your personal stress and anxiety because those arguments, that frustration, the replaying of it in your head, this is stressful and it causes anxiety, and we have enough of that. We don't need to be adding more from unresolved conversations or frustrating interactions with our partner. And then again, we want to improve the environment of the home. We want your home to be a peaceful place, a place that you and your children and your partner feel like you can just let down your walls and be present and have that kind of family experience you are longing for. So some groundwork for today's workshop. One, this is for you, but this is also for your child or for your children. Less fighting in the home has a number of benefits for the children in your life. So this is less stress and anxiety that they're embodying, that they're experiencing. When they're in that tension, they can feel it, they can pick up on it. And this is not to say you're ruining your child by ever having an argument or yelling at your partner or having a fight, but the reality is that our kids take that in. It becomes part of their body, their experience. And so this workshop can help us to reduce the stress and anxiety we're passing on to them. It's also to model healthy communication, model healthy relationships, improve their emotional security so that they know it's okay to have conflict or different opinions as they grow up, and it's not going to be explosive. There's going to be structures and ways that your family handles those things respectfully and with solutions and results. This is good for their cognitive and emotional development and can be a prevention of behavioral struggles, because just point blank, like, our kids are learning from us. What they see is what they're going to form as their normal. And we don't want them to have, explosions and yelling at each other and contentious arguments being what's normal for them. I want to say that this is a personal journey. So I don't want you comparing yourself to my story or someone else's story or an online influencer's story. This is going to be personal for you, but also you're not alone in your feelings and experience, especially if you have just felt blindsided by the way having a baby, taking care of another human, making all these other decisions, balancing all of these hats and glass balls and plastic balls. This can make it more difficult for us to have healthy communication with our partners. And so I'm not surprised that you're here. I have been in the place of feeling like I cannot believe how much my partner and I are arguing. It was discouraging. It was embarrassing. I felt a lot of guilt. I felt like this shouldn't be happening to us. But the reality was that we weren't prepared. We didn't have tools and resources. We didn't know how to continue to build communication in more stressful, more demanding environments, like having children in your home. You are the one here starting this work, but the goal is for your partner to join in. I do not teach these workshops so that women primarily take on more of the mental and emotional load. Okay. This is with the goal that what you learn, you can share with your partner. Maybe you send them this training. Maybe you watch it together. That would be awesome. But I also recognize that sometimes partners are not ready to step up, or they don't see the problem, or they're maybe leery about things like coaching or getting outside support and insight. And so I say this to you, if you feel stuck in that space, that is frustrating. If you feel like your partner is not going to get on board, they're not going to do the work too. We model it. Okay. We know that no matter what happens in the relationship, you live with you. So the development and the growth that you do to become a better person, mom, partner, communicator is always going to be with you. Nothing that changes, no contention with your partner, nothing can take that away from you. So even if you're not sure if your partner is going to buy in on this, do this for you. The goal of this 3-part workshop is to equip you to disrupt one or more unhelpful patterns that you and your partner get stuck in. I can't believe that says helpful pattern, because I don't want you to disrupt the helpful patterns. I want you to be able to disrupt an unhelpful pattern. Okay. So this is not like, we might not solve all the issues right here in this 3-day, 20-minute workshop, but what I believe you can walk away with, what I'm confident you can walk away with, is a way to disrupt an unhelpful pattern that you have felt stuck in. And that is going to be the open door to a lot of things. So today, day 1, we're focused on recognize. You have a link to the workbook in the Facebook group or in your email. So you can either download that workbook if you haven't already, print it out, write your notes in it. You can have it up on your computer and have a plain piece of paper where you're responding to the prompts, or you can use that Canva link and you can click on that link and it's going to say use this template for a new design, and you just make your own and you can type right in there. Super cool. But we're going to be going through recognizing triggers and patterns today to make you aware of what's happening, and then we're going to know how to act on it. The most common factors that I see as frustrators in relationships: unmet personal needs, resentment, and a misunderstanding of your partner's perspective. So we want to keep these things in mind as we're going through this today. Is there an unmet need that was present before, during, after that argument? Are there resentments that maybe are like, the conversation could have started down here, but because I'm feeling resentful, I already had this much frustration, or, there were already this many cards stacked against me or against my partner. Resentments do that. They bring extra things to the table and make it bigger and heavier than the issue at hand. This is why resentment is always the first thing I address when I'm coaching couples. We go back through the resentments. We address them. We talk about them, because if not, you're carrying them in you and they keep showing up in your arguments and in your relationship patterns in unhelpful ways. It's really not serving you. And then again, we want to get to know our partner's perspective and kind of just play with and see what we've thought about our partner's experience and perspective. So to begin, I want you to be able to identify some personal triggers and understand fighting patterns that are causing you stress and disconnect. So think about a recent argument. And if you need to pause this replay, do that. It could be today, last week, a month ago. Think about a recent argument that's still maybe causing you pain, like it's a tender spot for you. It could be an argument, a fight, a conversation that just didn't end the way you wanted it to. And what we're going to do is we are going to list as many things as possible with these prompts here. We want to see what is setting off a disagreement, because most things don't start as a hurtful fight. Most things don't start as an argument that just feels disrespectful and like it's not getting to the point, but a lot of them end that way. And we want to interrupt that. We want to keep our conversations in a productive place. We want to figure out here today what makes that switch. Okay, what's happening? What are those triggers that take a pattern down a road we should not be continuing to go down? So this might be words. Are there words that trigger you? Are there actions that trigger you? Are there tones or perceived tones that you hear or feel from your partner or from yourself that then contribute to something going down the road you didn't want it to go down? What about the feelings? What feelings were present in this argument example? What is the environment like? This could be a number of things. Maybe it's that you're in a house that you don't like, and that keeps coming up over and over again. This is just a piece of information. Maybe it is that things are cluttered, and clutter makes you feel anxious and out of control, and that sets you off. And then think about the personal needs. Did you have personal needs before, during, after this argument or this fight that were unfulfilled, that your soul was yearning for and not being seen or heard? So really here, we're just recognizing what's going on during this time. Feel free to pause if you need to take up more time on this. Now, with this same argument, I want you to list as many details as you can think of. Okay, so this is in your workbook. Try to list as many of these as possible. How did this argument start? As many details as you can think of. How did it start? Maybe it started great and then it took a turn. When did it escalate? Okay, again, most of our conversations, we don't start off with the goal of it being a fight we don't feel good about, but they take an escalation turn. Can you identify when did this escalate? And then was it resolved? If so, how was it resolved? If not, why do you think it did not get resolved? Did you just walk away and never return to it? Did you start yelling and then feel bad about yelling in front of the baby? Were there tears? Was one person maybe seeming to be unwilling to hear the other person's perspective? What was going on? And again, pause if you need to take more time for this. Now, the next step is, what is the story in your mind about your partner's experience of this same conflict? Can you try to retell these details, to retell this conflict from your partner's perspective? How do you think they came into it? How do you think they heard you? How do you think they responded? What is the story in your mind about their experience of this same conflict? Write it out. Get as much information, just take it from your brain, put it on the paper or on the computer, whatever it is. Some of you are going to take this story and you're going to take it to your partner. You're going to say, this is the story I'm telling myself about that experience. This is what I'm telling myself about what I think this was like for you or from your perspective. Is that true? Or what of this is true? Or where did I make an assumption that maybe hurts the overall situation, but wasn't true? Or, where was it true? And it was just like an ugly truth. Some of you aren't going to be ready to take this to your partner. Maybe trust is not there at that level. Maybe you don't feel safe to do that yet. It's okay. I would love to help you get there, to help you and your partner get there. But for now, getting it out of your head and seeing where you framed this story is going to be helpful. If you're watching this with your partner, flip-flop. Your partner does the same thing for you, what they think your experience is. This would be really interesting for you to both be going through this workshop, keeping your own workbook, and then comparing notes to see, was our experience the same? Again, pause if you need more time. So really today's focus, day one, is for you becoming a detective of yourself. This is what we've just been working through. You want to be watching for clues and indicators. You want to be observing without assigning judgment. So I want you to imagine, this is one of the things I have my clients do. I want you to imagine that you are not you, okay? You are this detective, or maybe you're a sociologist or a psychologist or an anthropologist, like a person who studies people and communities and behaviors. And you are watching this conflict. You're not you, okay? So you're just observing. What are all the clues? Oh, he said this and then she seemed to be really upset. Or she kind of backed down and so he closed off. Maybe it's the tone again. Maybe it's the environment, you know? The house was cluttered or dinner was burnt or whatever it is. So really this is to give you information. We cannot make a change unless we have information, true, clear information about how things are. So if you have come up with anything else, go back to the workbook, put in some more information. You know, you're like put yourself in the zone. I'm picturing me and my husband in the kitchen during this argument. Here are all the things I can remember, I can identify. These are just pieces of information. I'm not assigning judgment. I'm not saying this was right, this was wrong, this was good, this was bad. I'm just gathering data. And if I were taking this further with a client, I want to tell you what I would do. One, because maybe you're like, whew, this is cracking some things open. I might want to work with someone on this and I'd be happy to support you or you and your partner on this journey. But also maybe you're like, okay, what is the next thing I can do with this? If you are starting to identify some of these things, here's where it can go next. With me, with your counselor, with you and your partner meeting on this, whatever it is. Maybe you're a DIY person, maybe you're a support person, but we would be creating a personal plan. This would include, what are the key triggers you need to be mindful of? What are the words, the actions, the environment, the tones, the things that trigger you into a place that conversation is going to turn into a conflict? What are the steps for you uniquely to manage those triggers? Okay, maybe you've already worked through things like this before and you can apply some personal skills to the relationship here. Maybe you don't know what your steps are to manage triggers. Maybe your old steps don't work anymore, but we would be looking at what those are. And then the third thing is we are going to keep building awareness of the typical fighting patterns and how to interrupt them. Something that's really helpful about working with couples is that in my course of working with them, they're going to have a couple conflicts. And so we do this. We look at it from both perspectives. We talk about what was the trigger, what was true, what was maybe an assumption. We dig into it and we study those things so that changes can be made. So that was it for today, is the reflection, or the first part of just recognizing. Tomorrow in the next workshop, we're going to get into the feeling, more about why a pattern happens and what to do when your communication isn't lining up with your partner. Thursday, we're going to get into activate, the proactive tools for when, where, and how conversations can happen that are productive and minimize conflict. But really, the rest of tonight, tomorrow morning, whatever it is, I want you to be recognizing. Just notice what's happening when you're starting to get frustrated, you're starting to get overwhelmed. You want to say something to your partner, or your partner says something to you. Get curious and recognize what's going on. That's going to be really important if we talk about making changes in the next couple of days. And if you want to talk about your aha or what now moments from today, during the course of this workshop, I'm offering a couple of things. One, free 10-minute calls. So you come to me and you say, this is what, maybe what I'm stuck on, or what now, or this is the aha moment I have. We're going to work through it. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to give you some pieces of information or advice that you can use to take this to the next step in your personal example. This is a free call because I want you to have healthier family life. I want your relationship to be in a place where you can show up confident, connected, and making progress towards the family you want to be. I can also do this via voice memos. So we can do it on the app that I use called Voxer, or we can do this on Instagram or Facebook. Voice memos back and forth. This is easier for me than talking. I can hear your tone. I can hear you share. You can hear me, and we can make this conversational. So reach out to me. If something stood out or you have a what now moment, let's do something about that over the course of this workshop, because I really, really want to see you have the kind of impact from this. And that might mean some extra talking through it. And if you want some more content on this topic, I have a blog, I have a podcast, and I have a social media where I'm talking about these topics. I think specifically on the podcast or on the blog, you're going to see things about defensiveness, communication, whether you're an internal or external processor, things like feeling rage. I've been talking about these things lately, and those are going to be helpful if you haven't already tapped into those. So go to Better Relationships After Baby podcast or postpartumtogether.com on the blog. And if you want to get in touch with me, this is me now, but that was me when I was about 4 years old. And I still have the same sass. You can send me an email, find me on Insta, and let's just talk more about this and how to continue making your relationship an empowered, connected space. And Chelsea, love you, rooting for you. I believe in you. And I know that these things are challenging. And that's why we're talking about it, because they're challenging and they can get better. And I want this to get better for you, because I have experienced firsthand the benefits of recognizing the unhelpful patterns, feeling it out, and changing some things to activate better connection, better teamwork with my husband, the kind of relationship that I wanted to have with him, instead of the contention and frustration we felt a lot as new parents. So if I can help you, reach out. I would love to do so, and I hope to see you tomorrow.